Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Nature of Addictions, right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Chandler Picot. We're going to be talking about addictions and how it drove him forward into what he's doing today. He says his name is Chandler Picot. He's a 32-year-old resident of the wonderful state of North Carolina, growing up in a small town in Greenville, and later became a certified peer support specialist and a certified drug and alcohol abuse counselor after spending over 14 years in active addiction. His recovery journey, fueled by the grace of Jesus Christ, involved a robust 12-step program, intensive therapy, rehab, and halfway house, which collectively gave him the fighting chance at a normal life. Over the last few years, he's moved to Silver City, a goal of centering his e-commerce business. After months of commuting from Silver City, he recognized the benefits of living in a centrally located country within North Carolina. The potential for growth and the warmth of its residents made him fall in love with the city, and he now actively participates in online support groups and forums, assisting people with various behavioral health issues. And one of his longtime passions is helping others in any way possible. And you might find him with his closest friends volunteering at local food pantries, which they do weekly. And he takes great joy in seeing his fellow man receive the help they desperately need because he so relates to it. His entrepreneurial spirit is evident in his successful e-commerce business and various entrepreneurial ventures, including his role as the president of the Catham Weekly. He's also a fervent advocate for the substance abuse and mental health fields, striving to support those in need. His journey of sobriety and entrepreneurship advocacy began in Pitt Community College, where he graduated with an associate in arts in 2018. But would he have got there had he still stayed on the addictive road? And this is the thing. What does it take to break that cycle before that cycle is broken for you? Either body bag, which so many people unfortunately do get down that road, are completely lost to addiction, that there is no hope of coming back physically or mentally because the damage is done. Everybody has that something that comes along, or someone that is, I'm hearing you, I'm seeing you, and shows that path forward that you've never seen before. Welcome to the show, Chandler.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
What was that road for you? Because obviously 14 years of struggling with addiction, you obviously have tried many avenues to get out of it, or you were completely in denial, but there had to have been some doors opened for you that you could actually see yourself going through.
Well, number one, at the end, my sister. I mean, my sister has always been a huge supporter of mine and an advocate throughout my entire life. She was the one that helped me get into treatment. She called the treatment facility and she set everything up because I just couldn't do it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, a part of addiction is this loss of control. I mean,
Yeah.
you just don't have the willpower, and it's not about willpower, but you've lost all control, you've lost all say. And
Mm-hmm.
I could not do the action that I knew I needed to do. So I asked my sister, and my sister has always been a go-getter, and she jumped right into it, and she contacted local facilities and well, actually facilities across the state, and she found me the help that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm forever grateful for her for what she's done for me. And, we're still really close to this day. And, that experience really, truly taught me that addiction is a horrible disease
Mm-hmm.
that kills people. And it deserves to be treated as such.
Yeah,
I think that we really need to treat that better, not just in our country, but across the world.
yeah. Well, number one, you were cognitive enough to ask for help and you asked somebody that you trusted. Number two, she rose to the challenge. Number three, you accepted the challenge. Now, there are so many people have gone in and out of rehab and they just either weren't ready for it or it just didn't click or the addiction was too strong. But by you asking for help meant that you were ready for it because you can't help somebody in addiction until they're ready to, because it's their participation in that healing. And if they're not willing to participate, you can't help them. They've got to be at that stage where they say, enough is enough. I need help.
Correct. I mean, I've always been taught that in, the recovery program that I'm in. And that's been true in my own experience as a peer support specialist. You have folks who they like to use this little analogy. Imagine how tough it is to change yourself. I mean, we all know how difficult it can be to change these unwanted habits, these thoughts, whatever it is that we may be experiencing. Now, imagine how difficult that is to do that for someone else. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost impossible
Hmm.
because you can barely change yourself. How am I going to enforce some type of will or, idea on someone else? That doesn't make any sense. Thus is the nature of recovery.
Yeah.
Everybody has to go through their own experience.
Hmm.
Everybody has to go through their own story.
Hmm.
And, not everybody gets into recovery. And I also believe in multiple pathways to recovery. I
Yeah.
also believe I'm a big harm reductionist. I believe that everybody has a right to do whatever works for them as long as it does not hurt anybody else. And,
Exactly.
that's always been my situation because I understand just how deep and how nuanced drug addiction really is.
Hmm.
It is a true miracle anyone gets sober and stays sober.
Yes.
And, by the grace of God, I've been sober for 6+ years,
Bravo.
and that's because of, my higher power, God and Christ, and without that, I mean, I wouldn't be here today.
Hmm. Found something bigger than yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the thing about addiction is that it doesn't always make sense. It's like depression,
Mhm.
right? But what you're doing instead of, going into a slump and with a lot of people with depression, they become numb or they turn to something to try and feel something or escape the feeling. And we've got to understand there's a root cause. Now, is it, clinical depression? Is it environmental depression? Is it depression through trauma? And, what is the root cause of it? If we don't look at that root cause, all we're doing is band-aiding. And it will come back out again and show its face again if we don't go to that root cause. And if it is a chemical imbalance within the body, then that body needs help, whether it is pharmaceutical drugs or alternative, which I'm always pushing more the alternative, but sometimes we do have to go to the medicine side of things. We need to be willing to look at that root cause and face whatever it is that centers on that addictive path in the first place.
I agree. I agree. I do think that there needs to be more evidence-based practices
Mhm.
utilized. I mean, we do know that MAT works really, really well from just a clinical study, right? I mean,
What is
it's
that,
clear.
MAT?
Medication-assisted therapy treatment, whatever you
Right,
want to call
right,
it.
right.
Basically, what that is that Subutex, Suboxone, methadone, which are medications that are used to help folks who are coming off of opiates,
Mm-hmm.
so like fentanyl, heroin,
Mm,
so that they can be stable, essentially. What it does is it binds to the opioid receptors and it holds on and it has a really, really long half-life, so it doesn't people don't experience withdrawal symptoms if they don't take it every few hours, every
mm-hmm.
couple hours. You're able to take one dose, maybe two doses a day, depending upon what your doctor suggests,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're able to hopefully get to a point where they're able to start to work on themselves. And
Yes.
I'm a big fan of that as well. I
Yeah.
mean,
You
even
can't
though
expect
I'm
people just
in,
to go like that, right? They've been on drug for so long, and now you explain just stop. No,
yeah,
you need the gradual in anything, in any form of addiction, you need the gradual.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, everybody's got their own experience,
Hmm.
and there are people who can go into abstinence-based programs, and stay sober, and that's what I've done, and I'm very grateful for that. And should I
Hmm.
say, it's also okay for people to
Yeah.
need something like that. And
Yes.
sometimes I wonder if I had gotten on some type of MAT, would I have struggled as much as I did during the first few years of my sobriety? Because I was in a really bad situation where I was having consistent negative suicidal ideation.
Mm.
And, I've been pretty open and honest about my experience. And I feel like God's given me a 10 millionth chance. So I might as well do that.
Yeah.
I really struggled. I really, really did. And I think it was partly because of the imbalance in my brain.
Hmm.
I had these like depression and all this stuff, this anxiety, and I had these thoughts of wanting to harm myself.
Hmm.
And thank God that resolved, but that also resolved with intensive therapy,
Yeah.
going to 12-step program, uh, finding literally God, higher power, um, and also having an amazing psychiatrist. I mean, I
Hmm.
love my psychiatrist so much. She's amazing. She's in Asheville. She works at, I'll have to get back to you on the name, but it's an amazing facility. And she was willing to do whatever she could in her power to help me survive.
Hmm.
And if it wasn't for her, I mean, I shudder to think where I would be at today. I
Yeah.
really do.
Well, I mean, a lot of the people that are on the MAT are people that don't have that support. Now, you can't
Yeah.
kind of go cold turkey or, straight into therapy or whatever the process is, the 12-step therapy. If you that's support, that's people along the way helping you, cheering you on, holding you up, holding you accountable. But if people haven't got that, because where do most people with addiction end up on the street, right? And where are they going after they've taken that medicine? They go into the pharmacy, they take whatever it is they're taking, and they're back out on the street amongst the people that are still using. So they haven't got that kind of support to break the cycle, to break away. And we don't look at mental health. There's still a stigma around mental health. People who go into addiction are dealing with something, a trauma, a chemical imbalance, something. And we need to stop looking at mental health as being a flaw and looking at it as, a physical something against us that we need to look at and understand. But it's still got a thing against it that people don't want to talk about it until we have big celebrities suddenly committing suicide. And we think they
Mhm.
have everything. What drove them to that? And I think if you were the other side and spoke to 98% of the people that committed suicide, they would say, I didn't mean to commit suicide. I was in such despair, I didn't know what to
Yeah.
do because that despair is so all consuming. There's no rational. There's no, oh, let's be sensible, pull up our socks or, snap out of it. There's none of that. You can't
Yeah.
put words to it.
Mhm.
Somebody's pulled out your heart and your gut and you're in despair,
That's what it
right?
feels
And for some people it's just too much. And a lot of the time they mask it by being so wonderfully cheerful and productive. And nobody knows the darkness that's going on inside of them.
Robin Williams comes to
Yes,
mind.
yes,
Robin Williams. Everybody loved Robin. I love
absolutely.
Robin so much.
Mm,
When he passed, the world got a little darker. It
mhm,
really did. And, he used to tell people, because he was in program too, he's was very open about his struggles with addiction. And he actually got to a point where I remember there was this story, I think it was on YouTube or something, where this person was a comic and Robin was in the green room and he was holding he had his head in his arms. He was just like down like this, and a younger comic was looking at him, and he came in, maybe it was on like a movie set or something, and he said, I've done too much damage. It, I can't feel better. Like he was
mm,
complaining that he could not, he was in this depressive state and he couldn't
mm,
get out of it.
yeah,
And there's nothing worse than being in a
mm,
position where you can't use the thing that's
yeah,
supposed to make you feel better, and you also can't get away from those negative,
yeah,
self-destructive thoughts that tell you, hey, you know, I don't need to be here anymore. And there is a stigma. There's a huge stigma that
mm,
still exists in our society about that. And I just think we can do so much more. We can do
yeah,
so much more to really address that. And it takes stuff like this. It
mm,
takes stuff people willing to go out there on a limb and say, "Hey, look, this is who I am." I
yeah,
mean, I remember the first time I reached out to. There's this person who was writing. It was a journalist who was writing for a um, a North Carolina-based health news association, and she was looking for folks with depression, like a history of treatment-resistant depression, and I have had that. And although I'm in remission from that now, that was a big part of my experience.
hmm
And I told her my experience and my story, and I regretted it not because I told her that, but because I was scared of what others were going to think about me. And
yes,
was that going to hurt my potential job
hmm
opportunities in the
mm,
future? Because the reality is, we do live in a very stigmatized world,
oh,
and it takes a lot of guts
yes,
to stand up and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to talk about my real experience. But you know what I've noticed, especially now more than ever, people are coming out of the woodwork
yes,
to say, hey, look, this is what's going on with me. This is my experience. This is the difficulties I've been facing. And I'm just going to be 100% honest, and that's where I'm at. I'm
mm,
100%. What you see is what you get. That was my experience. This is where I'm at now. I'm all about personal growth. I'm all about spiritual growth. And I'm all about breaking down those barriers and breaking that stigma because that stigma kills people. It
yeah.
kills people.
That judgment and who are we to
Yes.
judge? We're not walking in that person's shoes, right? So that judgment is damning, right? Is destroying. And who are you to judge? And those that
Mhm.
cast the judgment the most are those the one that carrying inner trauma themselves and battling it themselves. They're just in denial. And I think, where is our compassion? Where is our empathy? I do not know what you're going through. I mean, I've never gone down the road of addiction in that way. Um, I don't know, maybe I think we all have certain amount of addiction in certain ways. Things when we're constantly repeating a pattern, there's two reasons why. One, we don't know we're repeating a pattern. And the other is that we keep repeating that pattern because we keep seeking a different result, but doing the same thing. But we keep going back into the lion's den. I've suffered from depression all my life. And goes up and down. You know what it's like. You could have a good day, and then the next day you're down in the dumps and go, why? Why am I feeling this today? And there is no rhyme or reason for it. And it gets frustrating because you don't want to feel like that. And I know that, many people have numbed them. I just don't want to feel like that. I'm going to pop a pill, or I'm going to take a drink, or I'm going to do this or that. No, it's okay. I'm not an addict. I only do it now and again. But the thing is, instead of facing why, or simply allowing ourselves to go through the depression,
Yes.
love and nurture yourself. Have the people around you that will love and nurture you. Get a pet. They're perfect for when you're in depression. And, and allow yourself to go through it. And then, without shame or blame or criticism or frustration, just allow yourself to go through it and come out the other side. And then you go, okay, that wasn't so bad. I got through it. Recognizing when the rabbit hole is getting too big and I need help, right? But not letting the outside influence cripple you, learning to manage it ourselves without persecuting ourselves.
I agree. I cannot tell you how many people I have heard say that their dog or their cat
Yeah.
saved their life. not only
Yes.
because it brought so much to their life, but also because they knew that if they ever took their life, their
Hmm.
dog or their cat would not have anybody to take care of them. I have heard that before. I have seen that,
Hmm.
and that's very real. We're talking about real issues right now, and I hope it hits home
Yeah.
for, the people watching and listening because there are people in your life right now
Yes.
who are absolutely struggling, who you just don't know. You
Yeah.
just don't know. See, I used to think we were so different. I used to think that there was such a vast difference between myself
Hmm.
and you. And I realized that's not true.
No.
We are way more similar than we give ourselves credit for. I mean, it's very evident. I mean, of course we are. We have the same brain structure, minus a
Hmm.
few variations,
Hmm.
but we're very similar. Even with addiction, once you get into recovery and you start to really look around, you see, oh, what's going on with that person, right? That's a little bit too much. You just you start to see the hallmarks of how maybe you behave, right? Like in my situation, I'm like, oh, you're displaying the same behaviors that I displayed
Hmm.
that led to 14 years of active addiction.
Hmm.
So and you got to be careful not to judge people because that's something that I really, take pride on is not judging folks and
Hmm.
just remaining neutral. But there's always indicators when
Yeah.
someone is really going through it. It's a bad time. They're not having a good time. You can tell, and especially with depression, people who
Yes.
don't know what it's like to experience it, to
Hmm.
grieve. The best way I describe it to folks who've never experienced depression is it's like if someone you love dearly dies,
Hmm.
that deep sadness, except it's really bad at certain times of the day. Like mine has always been traditionally in the morning.
Hmm.
And, thank God because I'm on this medication, I don't experience that anymore. But it was horrible. I mean, it really was. And I was looking into all these alternative therapies like TMS therapy and, even like ketamine infusions. I mean, that's how desperate I was because when you're in that state, you're fighting for your life. You
Yes.
really are.
Hmm.
And I like to reframe that too. When someone dies by suicide from depression, I say dies from depression,
Yes.
because I mean, well, we just have to be real about this.
Yes. Somebody
Depression,
happy does not commit suicide.
no,
No.
no,
Right.
no, 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 no. That's the
It
last
takes a
thing.
lot. It takes a lot to take your
Yes,
life,
it
right?
does.
You
It's
have to
incredibly
be at the end of
terrifying.
your tether. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're going against your will to live,
Yeah.
and we all have that innate. And I think that people need to understand that, and that's why it's always good to be kind to people and really
Mm,
love people and care about people. Treat people with respect.
please.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we've got so much hate rhetoric out there in the
Mm.
news right now. And, we've got a particular group. That's all that spews from their mouth. There isn't one single thing that comes out that is loving, caring, inclusive, or inviting. Right now, we've got some hope out there where we've got the opposite extreme, which is all about the hope, all about the empowerment. And I think for an awful lot of people, they have what I call environmental depression because the environment, we here in Canada, we've just lost our beautiful city, Jasper, and the wonderful forests and everything around there that tourists go to all year round because it's so beautiful, and half of it burnt down. And last year, we lost another city due to fires, and that's devastating in someone's life. But then, someone who lost their own home, she's a firefighter and literally had to watch her own home burn down. It's like half of us is still standing, and that half is going to rebuild because that isn't just someone's house. That's George's house, Jean's house, this house. We're a community. And I think people are begging for community. They're begging to be a part of something where you know my name, where you're there for each other. And I think this is a lot of what's going on out there is disconnecting people and making them feel more isolated than what happens, right? They go to something that's going to pick them up: drug, alcohol, sex, chocolate, coffee, workaholic, whatever the addiction is, it's something to be able to deal with it. Instead of why don't we come together as a loving society and be there for each other? And then we'll help people on the roller coaster of the ups and downs, and they won't feel so paralyzed and alone during it.
I agree. Corruption and greed, that's what
Mm,
I think
yeah,
are the root of
yeah,
our problems at a
yes,
societal level.
yes.
Is there's greed. People want more and more and more and more and
Mm.
more, and there's just never enough. And then you have mass
And never
corruption.
satisfying either.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no. And I mean, greed fuels the corruption
Yes.
because people want to do whatever they have to do to
Mm,
get where they want to need,
yeah.
where they want to be. I mean, I can only tell you that I have experienced the political realm. I ran for office a couple times, and I can tell you that there is so much
Mm,
vitriol and hate
I
that
know.
is in that space, even
Ah,
at a local level,
mm,
that it really turns people off and it makes
yes,
people not want to participate. And then that
exactly.
further exacerbates the issue
Yes.
to where you don't want to participate and you don't want to stick your head in the ring and say, hey, well, maybe I can help out. Because when you do, you get your hand bit.
Well,
And
it's like you go in with the I'm going to clean up the sewage, and then you're in that sewage and you're covered,
yes,
right? But at the
yes,
same time, how do we fight this virus if we don't participate?
yes, we have to. We
Hmm.
really do. And I think there's a way to be supportive, right? Help people run good campaigns. But we do need to really look at the individual and really address what's going on in each individual. And that's going to affect society as a whole. I
Yes.
mean, I think we've forgotten that. Well, why do you think people are struggling so much right now with the economy,
Yeah.
especially here in America? I
Oh, and
mean,
go
it
here,
is
Canada too,
bad.
darling. It's bad. Yeah. Yeah.
It's horrible. It's
Yes.
horrible. I mean, people can't afford anything.
No.
Inflation's getting worse and worse and worse,
Hmm.
and people are struggling. Everybody I know is struggling.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who's doing amazingly well. I really
Hmm.
don't. I mean, everybody is struggling in some way,
Yeah.
and that disparity continues to grow. So what, I think that plays into your environmental depression
Yeah.
because people think, well, what's the point?
Mm.
What am I fighting for if I'm never going to be able to own a home or start to build capital, start to build equity, start to build like invest in myself? You know, my generation, the millennial generation, I mean, it's been a struggle. It really truly has. We started off 2008, the huge financial crisis. We had the Great Recession, and now it feels like we're in another recession
Yeah.
technically,
Yes.
and it keeps hitting and hitting and hitting. And despite all that, I know that there's opportunity, and
Yes.
I'm grateful for that. My experience has been business has gotten better and better for me, and that's been because I've put so much work into it
Hmm.
and worked on it and tried and done everything I can. But aside from that, this is also a blessing, right? That
Hmm.
I'm able to get this done. So I think at the end of the day, love is the answer.
I
It really
agree.
is. And
I agree. Love is
acceptance.
all. Love is all.
Love and
Yes. Yes.
acceptance is the
Yeah.
answer.
I
If
100%
we
agree.
love one another, it's good. I mean, that's it. That's the solution. Love would really solve a lot of our issues.
I know I've been doing this 12 years and I've been counseling people for a long time. And I know that all those dictator wannabes, the people that are in that greed and opulence and power, inside of them are little children screaming to have attention, screaming to be loved. And, this over and over and over again, it's the inner child that is being neglected. I put out a book this year called Our Forgotten Children, which addresses this. It addresses the system that is breaking our children down, that is not supporting the gift of our children and having them grow up to be a beautiful, abundant adults. The system is designed to pigeonhole and to demoralize and to demean and to make sheeple out of. And we have to look at that system because it's producing broken people. And when we look at all these wannabes, puff, 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 it's little children inside of them wanting attention. Now, why are we not looking at the inner child in ourselves and going, what are you trying to say to me? Do you just simply need a hug? Right? And how about we actually greeted each other with a hug, stranger or not? And how about we walk down the street instead of our heads down, heads up, radar, head to head, side by side, with a smile
Yeah.
and lift somebody up? How much effort does it take to do that? You can share the love in so many ways. And you can start off with simply a smile.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that, man, I just agree with everything you said. I really do. I think that that is the solution. And you're right. The people who are, you're so right on the inner child. They're
Mhm.
just like they act out because they feel insecure,
Yes.
and you want to make this money and have all these things and this status because
Look at
as a
me. Look
kid,
at me. Yes.
yes, look at me.
Yeah.
Am I worth it now?
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
valid?
Yeah.
I mean, we could have a whole therapy session on that,
Mm.
like, and then one of the things I very much dislike is people mistreating people. I
Oh,
very much dislike that. And I can see how that can be a problem, right? I think that this is how much I believe love is the answer. I believe that you can have a business, structure a business with love as the goal, and you can be wildly successful.
absolutely.
I really do. I do not think
I think it's
that,
the only way to run a business.
yes,
Only way.
I
And it's got to
agree.
come from the heart. It's got to
Yeah,
come from the loving, meaningful purpose to empower others, to
yes.
serve others.
Yes. Serving others is the
Yeah.
key thing right there.
Yes.
If we are always focused on how we can help other people, things work out. I mean, like today, I went and helped someone else out. I mean, and this afternoon, I'm going to be going to the vacation Bible school that my church is putting on, and I'm going to be participating in that and helping people out like that.
Hmm.
So that's my goal today. That's my focus is who can I help?
Yes.
How can I help them to get out of myself? Because
Hmm.
myself is always worried about X, Y, and Z. What's going
Hmm.
to happen in the future? What about this? What about that? And the extent to which I can get out of myself and help others is the extent to which I feel peace and serenity.
I
And that
agree.
helps me to get close to God and to
Yeah.
stay connected to God.
Well,
Um,
it's actually God's purpose for you.
yes,
And, when we step into that purpose, God, universe, Gus, your spirit, whatever you wish to
yeah,
call it, right? It's that higher energy. Um, and again, if we can get out of there's only one God and one way, that's your connection. Other people may connect in a different way. We've got to again stop looking at, there's only one. There are many ways, but basically, love in any language is the core. When we step into love, we're stepping into a higher frequency, a higher hertz, a higher vibration. In that state of love, we can't knowingly do harm to others. To do so would to hurt ourselves. If we all put the effort in to step into love, self love, love of others, love of serving other people, just love of life, for goodness sake. We forgot to love life and the gift that life gives us. And if we step into that love and step it into that higher frequency, we resonate, we ripple out that love that starts penetrating other people around and turning them around into that higher frequency. It's scientifically proven that people that live on that higher hertz are people that are healthier, happier, and more productive.
I agree with you. I do. I think that staying on that higher path and that
Mm,
higher frequency is key
yes.
because it's easy to get into the lower vibrational
Yeah.
energy. It really is. It's not hard. And honestly, I think a lot of us, that's our default. I really do. I mean,
Hmm.
especially as the world and, you think
It's where
about
we've
it.
been conditioned,
Yes.
right?
And I
Yeah.
also think some of it is evolution. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I really do think that, thousands of years ago, right? Tens of thousands, it paid to be worried about everything
Mm,
because you're just trying to survive. I
yeah.
mean, look at the African savannah. I mean, they say that cheetahs have such high anxiety that they have to have support dogs because they're anxious all the time. Why are they anxious? because anything could like get them. They have, they're trying to survive. So
Yes.
it seems like that's a biological
Mm-hmm.
thing. So, okay, we know that is what it is. How can we overcome that? How can
Hmm.
we grow? How can we evolve? And I think spiritual evolution is a real thing
Yeah.
too. We can evolve
Absolutely.
spiritually. We can grow
Absolutely.
spiritually.
Hmm.
I really believe that. I really do. I
And I think we
believe that,
have to.
yeah,
We have to.
yeah,
That is the cure.
yep.
That
I
is that
agree.
that next evolution of man
Yep.
and
We have
woman,
to.
of humans to rise up to this higher elevation. And then we will actually understand what we're really here
Yeah.
for. We've been living too much like a Neanderthal for too long. And our
Well,
technology keeps opening doors for us and saying, I will take care of the menial work so you can rise up to the higher purpose.
yeah,
And yet we still want to go back to being the droid or the sheeple and being told what to do, and and just not take accountability or onus for ourselves. And I think that's one of the things we've got to understand. Whether you're facing addiction, depression, anxiety, it's our action in whom we speak to, where we get the help, what we do to step forth to be a part of that meaningful purpose that's going to feed us. We've got to realize that we do need to take the action ourselves and not just wait for someone to do it for us.
I agree. I agree. I mean, no one is coming to save you.
Right.
It's just the way that it is. Our
People open
society's
doors
not
for
there
you,
to,
right? They
yeah,
prod you
yeah,
and they
yeah,
push you,
yeah.
but it's still up to you to save you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, and make no mistake about it, having a great support network
Yeah.
and system is key. I mean, I do myself. Like my pastor's an amazing support system. My sister, I have friends. I mean, things like that have really been a blessing.
Yeah.
And I continue to have those folks in my life.
Hmm.
And, you know, cutting out the people who are toxic or
Yeah.
who just aren't, you know, helping in any way and are harming, that's key too. See, you
Yes.
have to know where to prune a
The
tree.
boundaries, the boundaries.
Yes,
Yes.
the boundaries, right? Oh, this tree's this thing has rot and it's going to be infecting the entire tree system.
Mm,
So what do? You cut it off. And I mean, we can use all these different analogies. I mean, in that we see in nature, we see in ourselves. I think
yeah.
we've kind of separated ourselves from nature
I know.
in a weird
Why?
way.
I know.
We shouldn't. I mean, right now it's raining outside, and I was thinking about that earlier when I was on the drive over here. Just how we're all connected. I mean, this rain, we're like what 70% water or something, and this
Yes, we
rain's
are.
coming
Yeah.
down and it's going, all these plants are drinking it up, and these animals are living in it,
Hmm.
ingesting it. We're all connected. We're all
Yes.
together in this ecosystem. And then we have the audacity to, produce these PFAS, these plastics,
Yes.
that have gotten so prevalent that they're even in women's um like wounds, right?
Yes.
Like as a baby's growing in
Yeah.
the umbilical cord,
We
they
we don't realize
find
how much.
microplastics.
Yeah, we all have it inside of us, and it affects our brain. And I think that's probably why we actually even see more depression
Mhm.
and we see more anxiety.
Yep.
And we feel so more
Cancer.
paralyzed because cancer, I mean, cancer is 80% emotional and 20% environmental, right? But, when you've got all the preservatives, they say you are what you eat. And
Mhm.
even if you're trying to eat healthy food, what's being sprayed on it? They do not in bread anymore spray it because they've put it in the DNA of the corn. So even though that particular pesticide has been banned everywhere else in the world, they're now putting it in our corn's DNA and producing it that way. And so that even the bread that we're eating has no substance anymore. And that's the problem. The food has no substance. And part of our reason for being so in despair is we're not getting the nutrients that feeds our brain and feeds our well-being. And then we've got the outside toxicity. So in and out toxicity, we all need a really good detoxification on both sides.
I agree 100%. We have to have that in our experience. And uh, you know, phones have also become a huge issue. I mean, the addiction to phones. I mean, you
Yes.
also have a new generation. I mean, we have an entire generation that is growing up using cell phones and it's substituting everything. I mean, I know so many folks who have developmental disabilities and issues, delays because they are have been using the cell phone, their little tablet since they were 2 years old.
They actually equivalent to brainwashing, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. When you've got a kid in front of a screen that's bouncing around all the time, it's like a form of brainwashing. They are not developing like when they're actually in play and in investigation. I have a 15-month and a 3-year-old grandsons, and my grandson, we go off and learn little adventures all the time, and his mind is constantly working. And that play is what is developing him. If you do put him in front of a occasional movie, he's like comatose, right? He's so into the movie, nothing else matters. You put a kid in front of a phone, and there was a picture of somebody, and they made fun out of it. Um, they took this phone away from the baby, and it had a conniption, and they gave it back, and then
Mm,
it was just glued again. This is not funny.
no,
This is our next pandemic,
yeah,
right?
it's
Mm,
huge. I think that we're going to have to look at that more and more. I think I can foresee a future where there's certain age limits for cell
hmm
phone usage, and there's also going to be some regulation because you just cannot have an entire generation and generations that are going to
hmm
be living like this. I mean, I think of Wall-E. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Wall-E,
Yes.
Pixar.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember how the humanity was like, massively overweight.
Mm.
They were rolling around everywhere. It's kind of that.
It
I
kind
mean,
of
we're
reminds
heading
me
that
of
way.
the movie, is it Substitute? Where they're all in a chair and they have substitute bodies living their life through them.
Oh, Surrogate.
Surrogate, thank you, thank you,
Yes,
surrogate. And it
yes,
kind of
with Bruce
reminds me of that.
Willis.
And in many ways, we're kind of doing that. We're letting, I mean, talking through a computer right now. Phones have
Yeah,
wonderful things, but again, addiction.
yes,
When you are, oh, I've got to pick up my phone. I've got to be on my phone. That is an addiction,
it is.
right? And
It
if you
is.
are having to tweet people all the time and things like that, it's an addiction. And why don't you go and tweet with nature and the birds and the forests and the trees? You'll get a hell of a lot more out of them than the rhetoric that's going on in a tweet, right?
I think there's so much competitiveness as
Yes.
well. Everybody wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be the next social media superstar.
Mm,
More and more people are coming up on that. Gen Z is actually, that's their Hollywood now.
mm.
So
TikTok.
TikTok,
Mm,
we're just in a different world. I mean,
yes.
the pandemic really accelerated everything. Now you have people who are just incredibly wealthy off of social media
Yes.
and who have doing brand deals, ad
Uh,
deals, all this stuff. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. I mean, look at podcasting, right?
mhm.
Podcasting has blown up in a very big way.
Well, I
So,
started 12 years ago, and no, I didn't even know what a podcast was when I was first asked to do it, right? 12 years ago. And yes, now everybody's got a podcast.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm
Everyone has one. And see, that's the thing. I guess the more folks that pop on, the more competition there is.
Yeah.
So you really have to niche down. And a lot of the prevailing research now states to niching down. So, I resell items. So my niche is more so reselling things, selling stuff on eBay, on various reselling apps, but also the peer support in the recovery, mental health.
hmm
My whole thing is substance abuse, mental health, and business ownership. And I kind of tied those together by wanting to focus more on entrepreneurship and mental health and how to really advocate for yourself while you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
a C-suite executive, CEO, president, because so much, and you understand this, like you have to, I'm sure, people who are in the business field will often overlook their own personal needs and cares because they're on the grind culture. Oh, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And that's not good. That's
No.
not healthy. You don't want to do that because you're going to get burned out.
Yes.
And then that's going to lead to a whole other issue. And I think
Mm.
there's this realization that needs to happen where we need to accept that we're human beings and we're going to be experiencing difficult times. And it's okay to experience those times. And it's also okay to treat yourself to relaxation, care. I mean, that's just as valid. It's just as valid to spend an hour hanging out, 2 hours watching a good movie, as it is 2 hours calling people and networking, finding more stuff to whatever it is. I mean, that's just as important.
Balance. I mean, I've just moved 3 months ago to where I am now, and I'm closer to my daughter and my grandkids. So I see my grandkids about 3 days a week. I was working like 8 days a week, 8, 10 shows a week, and I do all the production and do everything. So each show could be up to like a 4 hour development, before it's even put out there. And I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't, I was living with a um, she turned 91 yesterday. I was up there for the weekend for her, but an 80, 90-year-old when I was living with her. And it would be Timmy's and Denny's, let's go. And then that was my social life, or coming here to this city to see my daughter and my kids. And everything was becoming robotic. And I also produced 4 books. I produced 2 books and was in 2 other books before even May. And then I moved, and then I was about to produce another book, a coaching book and an anthology. And then suddenly, I could feel the old cosmic 2x4 coming. Are you paying attention? Because I'm going to wackaroo you if you don't. And it's like, stop, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. And so now my work is 3 days a week. The grandchildren are 3 days a week, and I have a day for myself. And it's that about that balance, because otherwise we're so big, we put our worth in what we're doing and not in who we're being.
I
And who
love
we're
that.
being is what counts.
Well, being is what we're supposed to. We're
Yeah,
supposed to just experience the present. If
yeah,
I'm in the here and now, everything's good.
yes.
Everything is fine. It's all okay. It's gonna be okay. It's when I start to worry about, oh, well, what about getting here on doing this? I got to do that. I got to do that, that, that. That's when the ego comes into play and where the mind starts to wander. And that's where the dissatisfaction, the pain comes. Objectively, everything's good right now.
Yes,
It feels comfortable where I'm at. We're having a good conversation. It's okay. It's when I take myself to the future and start
mm,
to think about it that things get haywire.
yeah,
So that's the reason why, I have a calendar, I work a good program, I have all these things that I utilize to help me live a life. A planner where I can plan out my day and I don't have
yeah.
to worry about it. I know what I plan out the night before, bam, bam, bam. And anything that pops up, as long as it's like God related, I'll do it. If not, it goes on the list for the next day,
Exactly.
and prioritization,
Yeah,
that's something I had to learn as well. I wasn't
yes.
good at prioritization.
Hmm.
See, I had to learn all these skills. A lot of people don't talk about when you use addiction from such a when addiction, when you use drugs or alcohol from such a young age, it stunts your growth, it
Yes.
stunts your development,
Hmm.
and you really have to grow and learn what works, what doesn't work, what to do, what not to do. So yeah, it just takes time,
But it takes
experience.
not just the time, but it takes you being involved with you. I would say in any form of business, actually anything in life, people are going to buy you before they buy from you. If they feel you're authentic, you are truly being who you really are and owning it, then they can make a decide if they want to interact with you, a relationship, interact as a friend, or do business with you. But if you're too busy chasing something or feeling lacked or, just not connected to yourself, then other people aren't going to connect to you. And I think the importance that we really need to get back to is embrace who you are in all your flawsomeness. You take a Japanese bowl that's been broken, they put it back together with gold and it becomes more valuable. I say, let's put ourselves back together, all of our pieces, with love, with self love. Now that bowl is ready to be filled with love and the cup runneth over. Because when our heart is in full power, it's a generator. It keeps generating heart and love. It doesn't know how to stop. And that's where
I
we want to
agree.
be. That's where we want to be because, when we allow the universe to speak through our soul, it's the wisdom, it's the compass. It speaks to our heart in resonance where our heart becomes engaged. It gives that to our spirit action for our mind to know what it needs to know in clarity when it needs to know. That's called knowingness. It's not the head intellect and the expectation and the dictation of society or anything else. It's trusting your higher force to guide you, ignite you, and show you the way, what you need to know in the moment. If we're not willing to be present with self, we're not going to know what it is we need to know in the now.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's amazing it's taken me, I feel like a baby sometimes. I really do. And I mean that in the best way
Yes,
possible.
no, it's
I've
exciting in a lot of
just
ways. Yeah, yeah,
I've
you're a
just
sponge.
come,
Yeah,
yes, I've just come online. I mean,
yeah.
I've been in a program for 6 years, but only up until the past year, I've gotten to the point where I am really getting the freedom that's
Mm,
offered. Um, I'm part of another fellowship that focuses on uh, food, right?
mm,
Food addiction, and I've lost 135 pounds.
good for you.
Around, thank you, around 80 pounds is in that program,
Hmm.
and it's just it's amazing. It's amazing, and I'm invited to do these different things, right?
Hmm.
Like I'm invited to participate with you today and
Hmm.
show up. I was fearful that I'm not having enough light on me. There's all these fears that come
Yes,
up,
yes.
right? Oh, I don't have enough
They're
light,
external fears.
or
They're
yes,
external, though. We have
yes,
to
yes,
gotta know that.
or you know, maybe performance anxiety. Am I going to say the things that need to be said? And that's where I'm invited to accept that those are going on and
Mm.
pray, ask God for guidance,
Hmm.
and then just go forward. And
Yes,
once again, come back to the moment. See, I have a
yes,
meditation practice as well. And I say that because every time I've shared stuff like that, every time I've heard people share stuff like, oh, I'm really fearful of this, or I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways because I know it's objectively good,
yes,
people reach out and they relate. And sometimes we have to do things. A lot of
yeah.
the times we have to do things that maybe our ego doesn't want us to do, or we don't want to do, or we're fearful of, but we objectively
Past
know,
fears, constantly wanting to be part of the picture. And I'm sorry, you don't belong here
yes,
anymore, right?
no, no. And see, what you're doing is you're separating yourself from your ego,
Hmm.
and you're literally following your divine path,
Yes.
your soul path, right?
Hmm.
You are a soul. You're a spiritual
Yes.
being on this earth having a human experience.
Hmm.
And, you know, our brains are one thing, our egos are one thing, but they're not our soul. They're
No,
not who we are eternally.
no.
And I think people
No,
should
not our
really,
essence,
no,
right?
no, and
What is
people
the
should really
essence of who we
understand that.
are? Hmm.
Yes, yes, people should understand that. People should realize that, you know, there's so much more. There's so much more. I mean, I'll tell you this. I actually overdosed before, and my mom heard a voice tell her to go check on me 3 times. Go check on him. Go check on him. Go
Hmm.
check on him. And she comes up there, and I had locked the door. And normally she wouldn't come up there for a couple of days at a time because I would ward them off, because I was in active addiction. And she picked the lock, opened the door, and she saw me, 330 some pounds of me, um, laying on this bed, blue, because I
Mm,
was dying. I was 5 minutes away. The paramedics came. They said I was 5 minutes away from going into full cardiac arrest.
mm,
And I'll never forget that experience because I woke up with a paramedic shining a light in my eye saying, "It's
mm,
going to be okay, buddy." And I was like, please let this be a dream. Please let this be a
mm.
dream. Because I was like, oh no, I made a mistake.
Yes.
And then I woke up about a day later at a local hospital, and I looked to my left. I saw the hospital sign, and I'm like, Can't believe I did
Yeah, I
this.
know. I know.
And, you
Yes.
know, but at the same time, I'm glad that happened in a sense because I had this spiritual experience off of it.
Mm,
Like, you know, I I was they always say the last thing to go is your hearing.
mm,
And I was dying. I was everything else was shut down except for my hearing. I could hear my mom. By the way, you hear people who are very important in your life.
yes.
Just so you know, like the
Mm,
people you love the most,
mm-hmm,
you hear them. I don't know what it is, but like
mm-hmm,
I heard some of my mom. So, I don't, we all experienced that where, like my grandfather was dying and they say, you want to go say your last words to him? And he's like, out, but they can hear you. Um, and what ended up happening is I woke up. I didn't die, but I came close. So the spiritual experience was something telling my mother to come pick me up. And then I had one more that happened that I can really stands out to me. When I was the day before I went to rehab, my buddy called me, who hadn't called me in 10 years. Didn't even know really how he had my phone number. And he hasn't called me since. He was drunk. And he said, God wanted me to reach out to you and talk
mm,
to you. Think about that. And I
yeah.
was shocked. Like
Mm,
it was one of those moments where, you're like, God, if you're real, show yourself. And he actually shows himself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I was shocked. Like my mouth was open. I was like, I mean, I'm almost like going back to it right now.
mm-hmm.
I just remember that experience and just being shocked that this was really happening. Some person is calling me and God showing a sign. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was really, and I'm a very analytical person, so it was really hard to deny that. And I
Mm-hmm,
wanted to deny that. But at a certain point, there's all this evidence that states there is a God, there is a higher power, there is
mm-hmm.
something out there that's bigger than me, that loves me deeply
Yes.
and wants the best for me and
Mm-hmm.
wants me to have a great life. I'm not going
It
to fight
isn't out
that.
to punish or persecute or
Oh,
crucify. That is the human
uh,
interpretation of God. You know, God is love, full stop. God works from a space of love. In that lovingness, just like a parent will hold you, accountable. Come on now, step up.
yeah,
But God doesn't persecute, torn and quarter, or put you on the cross. No, we humans do that. And that's the human fear, the human control, the human condition to want to control everything and make it about them. Because if you've got people in fear, they've now become puppets. And because when they're in fear, you have them in control. All you have to do is keep stirring the fear pot. And more they're in fear, the more crippled they are, the more they will not think for themselves, and the more they'll be sheeple that you can sheeple them along. Right. So one of the things I think we need to look at, which I call common sense fear. It's the fear that stops us from walking in front of a bus, putting a hand in the fire, or knowing when there's something wrong. If we travel with common sense fear, but we open the door to wonderment, what's out there? What's wonderful things to explore? What can I discover today? And common sense, fear, and wonderment go walking together in trust, in God's trust, or trust in God. We will see things and feel things and experience things that as a humanoid we never could, right? That common sense fear is just to keep you safe. Don't let it become the monster that cripples you because now it will paralyze you. Let
mm,
wonderment, right? God's wonderment open that door because there's so much to experience and so much to explore and so much joy to have. Common sense fear will keep you safe, but go and explore. We haven't
agree.
lived yet.
Yeah,
We're so busy just surviving and fearfully surviving. We've forgotten how to live.
yes. I agree with you 100%. You're dropping everything that I've been talking about. I mean, like just it's crazy. It's like we've been talking for decades.
We're in
Eh,
June.
we really
Mm.
are. And I think there's something to that too. I really do. I
Oh,
think
I
there's
do.
like people
Yes.
who are on a higher path. We're
Yep.
all
We're
tapping
at the
into
same
something.
frequency, on the same
Yes.
wavelength, right?
Yes,
Mm.
yes. That paralytical fear, that's
Yeah.
what I call it.
Mm.
Paralyzing fear where I'm just, oh, I'm terrified. That is what I suffered from most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
The anxiety, the fear. What if I make a mistake?
Mm.
Oh, this isn't going to work out. I missed out on this. That's all ego. That's all self. What would see a 10th step is what's the problem and what would God have me be? What would God
Yep.
have me do about the problem?
Yep.
In 12 step. Um, so the problem is fear. Well, what would God have me be in regards to fear? Trust, put
Mm.
faith in Him that everything's going to be okay. Stuff like that, right? I
Yes.
do 10 steps preferably every day, not every day, but I should. And I do them throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
My experience has been that fear is the biggest threat that humanity faces.
Yeah.
It is one of the biggest threats. I mean, we
Yes.
can talk about greed, but ultimately, isn't greed doesn't greed come out of
Yes.
fear? Does
Yes.
some
The
way,
feeling
isn't
of
it a root?
inadequacy,
Yes.
greed is there.
Not having enough.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not enough. I don't have
Yeah.
enough. Nobody's going to like me, want me, need me
I need
because I'm
more.
not enough, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. We're all enough. What we've got to understand, and this is an analogy I use all the time, we're in discovery of what our instrument is. Once we know what
Mhm.
that instrument is, we learn how to play it. Now, we could be soloists. That's perfectly all right. Beautiful music can come from us. However, when we join an orchestra, each one of
Mhm.
us in our own strength, and we play harmonically together, we're now transcending that good vibration out to resonate to all. We are meant to work together as a human race, but not as one droid and surrender to the Borg. We are meant
Yeah.
to bring the best instrument that we are to that collective orchestra so that we can create together.
I agree. 100%. We have to do that. I mean, it's just we're always invited to more. That's what I've
Yes.
realized. We're
Mm-hmm.
invited to more. I mean, so I'm actually a part of a committee working to expand North Carolina's Good Samaritan law. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Expand Good Sam. Our website's expandgoodsam .com. And what the goal is to expand our what our goal is to expand North Carolina's Good Samaritan law to help folks out struggling with substance use, mental health issues. So let's say someone overdoses. Right now, there's certain penalties that they would face that they shouldn't face that we need to update. And
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's common sense. We actually did a recent poll, and I mean, we had unbelievable numbers in favor. Unfortunately, we're coming into contact with issues with lobbying groups. And
Don't get me going on them.
yeah, literally. And people are scared because you have to get these certain lobbying groups to support you, right? And it's funny because both of them are law enforcement. And even though we're willing to work with them, so it's been a struggle getting them to the table. So I'm involved in this policy at state level. And I started to see how, the legislature operates, how politics operate. And a lot of it is fear. It's all
Yes.
fear. I'm scared to put my name on the line because I don't know how this is going to
The
turn out. So people,
repercussions. Mm-hmm.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
people are fearful. So when you have all this fear tied into every aspect of humanity, let alone politics, it makes it very difficult to do anything.
Yeah.
Like everybody's focused on their image, their greed, their selfish ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I reject that. I
Mm.
reject that. I want to focus on the world and that's the reason why I like to write. I've loved to write my entire life. I'm actually I got a website called chandlerpicot.com. It's spelled Chandler. P is in Paul, ICOT.com. And on that website, I have several articles that I've written. I have links to all my social media, uh, you know, profiles. And my goal is to continue to spread the word
Mm-hmm.
about recovery, mental health. How do you run a business and stay sane and sober while living with mental health issues, while living without mental health issues? Because I think we like to think sometimes that not everybody, but people like to think that, oh, I have this issue and it's only me and you don't know what it's like. It's like, no, someone else could be experiencing it, but also people don't experience the same things that I experience. So it's
Exactly.
very plausible that someone could be neurotypical but struggle with certain aspects, and they deserve the help just as much as anybody does. So I don't
Yeah.
like to pigeonhole anything.
No. In fact, it's actually, I have a show coming out this week. This show, is being recorded now, but it comes out next week. But my show this week, because I do one every week, and it's like I'm not my label, and I have a few health conditions, plus I have ADD and I have dyslexia. And, it's always held me back in certain aspects, in certain areas, because I just can't fathom it. I can't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. And it was always the emphasis on what I could not do and not the embracement of what I could do. And my life's journey now has been see me for what I can do. Forgive me for what I can't. I just simply can't do it. And I'm not going to beat myself up anymore for not knowing how to do it. Concentrate on what you can do. This whole expectation of that you've got to be perfect at everything. There is no such thing as perfection. There are perfect moments in time, perfect
Yeah.
moments that fill your heart and fill your soul, and you'll remember forever. Oh, God, that's perfect. Celine Dion at the opening of the Olympics. That was a perfect moment, right? And that's the joy of perfection, are those moments that you capture. But to try and live up to this perfection of an illusion that society's dictated on you, instead of you looking at what is your instrument? How are you playing it? Are you coming from the heart and soul of it? Because when you are, that's your truth. That's what's going to benefit people. People who need that music from you are going to hear it. People who need different music are going to hear it from different instrumentalists.
You know
No
what's
compare, no
interesting?
comparison, no comparison, no competing. Right.
Exactly. You're
Yeah,
totally right. I think that people, so scientifically, humans learn the best way humans learn?
they're doing
Making,
mistakes.
doing mistakes.
Yes.
We learn by
Yes.
making mistakes.
Yes.
We fail. Failure is the key to success.
Mhm.
Think about that.
Every successful
That's
person that you've put on a pedestal, except
fail,
one, learned from their mistakes,
fail.
right?
Yeah, you're right. Literally.
There
Fail,
are some that just,
fail, fail.
but
Yeah.
there's everybody that's truly successful and that has makes it count and go, thank you for the mistakes.
Yes, because it teaches you. That's been
Yes.
my experience. I've
Yes.
failed in my business a million times,
Yes.
and I'm going to fail a million more. But you
Mhm.
know what? It takes one success. It takes two successes. It's like you learn, don't do this. Okay, I
Exactly.
stop doing this, and then I'm good on this, and then I don't do this, and then I just keep going up and up and up. And people need to understand that's how we learn, and it's okay to fail. I wish to God Almighty that we would teach this in schools
Yeah.
that you want to fail because as long as you're failing, you're trying. And you
Yes.
only truly fail and it's final. The only final failure you have is when you stop trying to fail,
When you give
right? When
up.
you stop trying to succeed, to get better. Giving
And
up
and this
is
is
the
yeah,
issue.
this is why I do not like grade type thing where it's the stigma. You've got an F, so therefore you are less than.
No,
And this is pet peeve. Mm-mm.
me
No,
too.
it may need that you as a teacher need to help me in this arena more because I'm not getting it. Or maybe you need to recognize not my strength. So if I ever am going into business or whatever I'm going to do in life, I know I'm going to need people who have that strength because
Yeah,
that's not mine, right?
yeah.
And it's this again, compare and compete. From right from school, you feel you're being compared to someone else who's got the A's, and you're competing against somebody who's got the A's. And you always feel less than because you didn't get the A's. Back to the system being wrong. And that's why we have so many forgotten children, because we're not looking at the gift of what they are. And today, my goodness, look at the beautiful children that are coming into the world with such gifts. Please, may we not start controlling them and compartmentalizing them and pigeonholing them and holding them back. Let us travel in the essence of joy and love they are, because they're here to teach us.
I also have ADHD, and it's both difficult and very rewarding because
Yes,
it
because you
means
see
I
things differently,
focus.
a different
You
angle.
do, and you have
Yes,
tons of just
yes,
desire. And
yes.
I mean, this podcast, I guarantee you, is partly due to ADHD,
Hmm.
right? I mean,
Hmm.
you and I both. And
Yeah.
I think that that's a useful thing. I mean, to do anything for what do you say, 12, 14 years?
I've
How
12 years
long?
now. Yes, I'm 12, 11
That's
years with my own network, and I've been in it 12 years since April.
that's amazing. It really is. And congratulations on that
Thank you.
to do that and to experience that.
And there's
I
so
think
much
it's
I had to
needed.
learn that I
Yes.
never thought I could learn.
Yeah.
Developing and editing a video and creating this and doing that. I always thought I can't do that. And the thing is, if we go, but I have to, so I better learn, right? And then you learn to do it the best way that you can. But it is we sell ourselves short because others have sold us short.
Yes. The self-limiting belief.
Yes.
I can't do that. And you know what? You can have those thoughts, but you don't have to listen to them. That's the
No.
thing that I wish I knew. That's not me. See,
Hmm.
people identify too much with their thoughts. Your thoughts are not who you are. How
No.
about that?
Yeah.
Your thoughts are just your thoughts because you can observe them. If
Yes.
you were your thoughts, you wouldn't be able to observe them. Who
No.
is the observer? The observer is your soul. That's who
Yeah.
you are. That's who
Hmm.
I'm talking to right now. You're talking to my soul.
Hmm.
We're connecting. Now we have these physical bodies, we have these brains, but that's not who we are.
No.
This is just like, a video game simulation, whatever you want to think of it as, where we're the real player behind the mask.
Mm.
And I used to be an atheist. I used to be agnostic. And, now I'm a Christian. And it's because of all the experiences that I've had, the experiences that I've seen, and I do believe God is bigger than we
Yes.
could really know. I do. I agree with that. I think God is, if I could put God in a box, it's not God. It's just not. I mean, I can't quantify God.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like it being bigger than me and being, you know,
All wise. That's why this is called
yes,
self-discovery wisdom. That wisdom we download through our soul, which
yes,
is our compass of knowledge that's given to our heart,
yes,
right? To
yes,
understand and our spirit to work on, and mind to then clarify. That's the
yes.
thing is that I'm not at all religious. Um, because again, for me, it's pigeonholing, and you've got to pray and be this and this religion. I am divine, right? The divinity is about opening up to the universal wisdom and the higher powers that are there. I am completely, if I don't listen and I go with my head and not with my heart and soul, I will go and make a mistake. But
Yes.
when I listen and allow that divine and that clarity and that wisdom to come through me, then I will go where I'm meant to go and I will succeed. So
Mm,
I will never travel without them. And I have traveled without, and I have made some awful decisions. I'm turning 70 in a couple of months. I've made some
yeah,
humdingers. I really have. But it's like, how did you learn from those humdingers? And for a long time, I kept repeating patterns without realizing I was repeating a pattern,
same.
right? Because, or it looked different. There was a different package, a different person, but really the pattern was in the behavior. And I would keep going back to the same behavior, even though it was coming in a different package, until I realized, no, this behavioral pattern, there's the brain, which is the hard drive that gets us moving our body, right? It's the mechanical. The other side of the mind is the programming. It's the knowledge. What do we do with that knowledge? And if it's stuck in old programming, which half the time causes our anxiety, causes our depression, causes us not to be who we're really meant to be, because we're in DNA patterning, we're in past life patterning, we're in the patterning of our lives and environmental patterning, societal patterning. And we've got to look at that pattern and go, is it me? Does it serve me? How do I rewrite this pattern that's in alignment with the essence of who I really am?
And that takes honesty and self-discovery and
Mm,
willingness to face everything and recover. That's my
yes.
favorite acronym for fear.
Mm,
Face everything and recover. So you may find things that you don't like, because I can tell
yes.
you I have. And you have to
Uh-huh.
face it, right? Or
Yes.
maybe higher power is calling me in this direction,
Yeah.
and I know it, but I'm scared, right? Because I want the ways of the world, whatever that
Mm,
is, right? Money, fame, success, yada yada. Well, higher power wants you to go through this, and the higher power is going to give you everything beyond your wildest dreams.
yes.
And that's been my experience. I mean,
And things we have not yet dreamt,
yes,
right? Things
exactly.
that we think as human beings aren't possible. There
Yes,
is nothing impossible from the
exactly.
divine. And
Yes,
when you look at what we've achieved as a human race, technically everything, what we're using right now, Tesla, Nikola Tesla
yeah,
is we look at him, look at the brilliance that his technology is still being discovered of how to use it and what it can do, the healing modalities, the energy, the this, the that.
yeah,
He had the intellect to understand what he was given.
yes,
If we don't have the intellect to understand what we're given, then we don't know how to use it. We don't know how to ignite the mind and the knowledge how to use it. But we have to trust what we're given is given to us for a reason
yes.
and use that wisdom in that divine way, very often blind, deaf, and dumb, in order to hear, see, and feel. It's trusting
Yes,
that divine. It's got your back. You are a part of it. We're all made out of the same particles in the universe. That is the wisdom that guides us. It's our compass. Trust it. Just being a humanoid out on our own is very lonely and despairing and vulnerable. Trust in that divine and travel with it, whatever you want to call it. And you know that you are not alone and you'll be put on the right path.
you're right. That's it. I mean, at the end of the day, if there's one thing I could share with someone, it's that what you just said. I mean, letting go, letting go and
Yeah.
accepting things as they are,
Surrender and allow.
surrender consistently throughout the day.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, things aren't going the way you wanted them to go. Hey, say la vie.
Yeah.
It's life. What are you going to do? Just continue to let go.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful that that's my opportunity. That's what
Mhm.
I'm invited to do. And that I get these opportunities to grow, because that's what it is, an opportunity for personal growth and professional growth and spiritual growth. And that's what I'm about. I mean, I refound this desire to learn and
Mm.
to connect with people. I've always loved talking to people and networking with people and connecting with people. And now that's what I'm doing more. I'm actually going to be speaking more. I'm working on getting some speaking engagements, and just telling people about what my experience has been, advocating for peer support. I'm on several different boards and committees throughout North Carolina. Another one I'm on is called Recovery Alliance Initiative. And we are working to connect folks in North Carolina, especially the mental health professionals, substance use professionals. And what our goals are one of the groups that I'm a part of is the peer support committee, subcommittee. And we are working to advocate for a higher living wage for peers and
Mm.
also train and educate businesses on how peer support would be useful in their work environment. So we're doing things like that. And yeah, I'm just grateful. I'm so grateful for you having me on this
Oh
podcast.
no,
And,
my goodness,
you know,
absolutely. I mean, the people like yourself, you discovered your courage to turn your life around. You discovered the strength and the abilities you didn't know you had. Now you've discovered your meaningful purpose of what it is that coming from where you have come from, you had to experience that.
oh yeah,
It's for you to understand how to help people moving forward. And now you can stand up there and you can really speak about it. I know what it's like. I relate, and other people will relate to you because you've been there. And now it's
yes,
your where now, you're doing what now. There is hope. We can do that, right? But again, this say you take a horse to water and you can't make it drink. But I say, leave it there long enough and it will realize it's thirsty, right?
I
And the
love
more
that.
and more we open the doors and say, come on in when you're ready, And when they're ready, they'll feel comfortable enough to come in because they're not being forced, they're not being judged. It's that open arms. This is a place of love. And that's what people are hungry for is love. Bottom line is, what is the emptiness in humanity? A lack of self-love and a lack of love of life or having no purpose.
I agree 100%.
So, my dear, you're on all of these boards and I want every link. Your site you've already given, social medias. How do people reach out to you? How can they support you? How can you help them? Just lay it all out.
So you can reach out to me. I'm trying to think, what can I do? So you can contact me on Facebook, on Instagram. My full name is Dean Chandler Picot II. You can find me that way.
Can you spell
You
it for the
can,
people who are just listening? Because I'll have the link up there.
yes, sure. So it's Dean, D as in dog, EANC as in cat, HANDLER. Last name is Pico, PICOT, the second. And my website is chandlerpico.com. So it's CHANDLER, P as in Paul, ICOT. You can actually email me up there. You can send me a message and it connects directly to my email. I also am I can't believe I didn't mention this, but I'm actually a outreach coordinator and a peer support specialist for
Mm,
Caramore. So I help folks out throughout the state of North Carolina with mental health issues, substance use issues. So if you or anybody you know is experiencing issues with mental health, substance use, you think they need help, please reach out to me at uh, Picot, Picot at Caramore, CARAMORE .org. Again, that's C is in cat, P is in Peter, I is in Icarus, C is in cat, O is in otter, T is in time, at Caramore, C is in cat, A is in apple, R is in Randy, A is in apple, M is in Mandy, O is in otter, R is in Randy, E is in everybody, .org. So I think I got that right. But
yeah.
yeah, that's me. I love to help people. It's my goal. If you, like I said, it doesn't matter where they're at. If they're struggling, reach out. Even if they're not in the state, I can still work to help them.
Yeah.
And I just thank you so much for this experience. This
Oh,
has been
no. Thank
great.
you so much for the work that
Yes,
you're doing. And again, as they say, the best teachers, the best guiders are the ones that have been through it. And another arena I'd like very much to see change is I would like to see, um, you know, counselors or coaches, counselors more, uh, social workers out with the police. And I would love to see so much more in the police, in the paramedics, in even in the, in the law of understanding addiction, understanding dementia, understanding Alzheimer's, understanding autism, because we have, oh, they're behaving like that, so therefore they must be a criminal. And it's shoot first, ask questions after. And it's that kind of cowboy mentality has got to go. And there has to be more training behind it of like, what is it that we're facing here? And how do we defuse the situation before it gets to that level? And I feel that there's so much more work to be done because we've really become very much, especially America, cowboy city. And it's really, that's a lot of what we have seen with the police is the bully mentality. We see it everywhere. And, put on the uniform, I've now got power over you. And so we've got to assess the people that are putting on that uniform.
yes,
Why are they putting it on? Are they here to serve and protect, or are they here because now I've got a uniform I can bully? We've got to do some mental health on them. All right.
I
So,
agree.
there's a lot of work still to be done, and it will never be done at the government level until people like yourself at the ground level show the change and show them something to change in government. Government doesn't know how to change. It does,
No,
it may say words, it just doesn't know. You have to show them. Look, this system works. Put the money behind it. These are the statistics. This is what you will save in the long run. And now they'll go, oh, okay. But do not ask them to put it together because they don't know how. You, the people on the ground, are the people that are the change that you seek. You are the love you seek, you are the peace you seek. So step into the action that is needed.
That's the goal. Step into the action, step into the now,
Yes,
be the change you want to see, connect with other like-minded folks in your
yes,
area, and good things will happen. I can guarantee you that.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Be that instrument in that orchestra, right? Yes, your music is important. We want to hear you. But my goodness, when you come together as an orchestra, whoo, wow, how much impactful that is. And come from a place of love, especially self-love, not
Yes,
just giving your love to everyone else and you don't feel it within yourself. No, we want your self-love, your authentic love, and
yeah,
come from that place. I get asked, who do I interview? Because I have 19 different genres, and it's all those that come from the heart. I don't care what it is they're doing, but if it comes from the heart and it's of meaningful purpose and service to people, I will interview.
that's
So
amazing. That's a
thank
good
you
way
for
to be.
coming from the heart.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be able to do that. And thank you for listening from your heart.
Oh gosh, yeah. And passion, that's another thing. When you do come from the heart and the spirit is behind you, and the compass is behind you, the passion is there. And that
Yeah,
passion is endless. It is the well, the heart generator is constantly generating, but it becomes that fuel. The passion is the fuel that helps you get up and face another day and go, you know, making a difference, even if it's 1 centimeter at a time. They all add up in the end, don't they?
they do. And I was also going to say too, real quick, you can find me at you on YouTube as well,
Hmm.
youtube.com, Chandler Picot, Chandler Picot. So I do have some videos up there, some
Excellent.
podcasts that I've recorded,
Mhm.
um, just a lot of the advocacy stuff. I've done a webinar on Expand Good Sam, so I'll send you all that information
Yeah.
as well.
Yep, and it's all be up on his page. So if you're listening to this, and there's a link underneath every single one of the listening platforms, you can just go to that. It goes to his show page. But of course, you can just put in his name, Chandler Pico, and his show page will come up with everything on it and wherever to listen. So don't forget, folks, share, share, share. I love people having podcast parties where everybody listens to the podcast, takes notes, and then shares what they've got out of it. Suddenly, the perspective has become an orchestra. Everybody's instrument is playing together and what they've got out of it. And it just transcends even more that wisdom and knowledge and that passion to share and expand. So please share out the podcast, have a party, glass of wine, listen to it, and go, okay, what can we do now? How does it inspire us to step up and do something? Because that's what we want. We want you to heal yourself and then go out there and be of aid to others. So thank you so much, Chandra, for being here.
Thank you.
And to everyone else out there, please, no judgment, no shame, no blame, compassion, empathy, understanding, and what action can you take to make a difference in somebody else's life? Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration, it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.